Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we uncover what really creates freedom in life and business, and we'll explore stories of those who've learned how to build wealth with purpose.
Welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Today, I'm joined by Gene Bond. Gene is the founder of the Bond Financial Group. He's a certified financial fiduciary and a retirement income certified professional. Gene, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Hey, Gene, can you just start by telling us a little bit more about who you are and what's the work that you do right now?
Sure. So let me kind of take you back in time and kind of let you know why I got into this business to begin with. My father had his first heart attack when he was 42. He had his 11th heart attack, was the one that killed him, on his 51st birthday. And so, you know, he was 51, my mom was 46. And this was in an era where, for the most part, men worked outside the house, women worked inside the house and ran the house. My mother, who had never had to work a day outside her entire life, suddenly found herself without a husband. We felt good, though, financially, because my dad, and this was in 1980, he had $500,000 worth of life insurance. And that's when 500,000 was 500,000, right? Back in 1980. But come to find out, only 10 of that was any type of death. 490,000 of that was accidental death. And I know that's not what my dad thought, because my dad on his dying bed told me, he said, "Son, don't worry, your mom's gonna be fine. Don't forget, I've got that insurance policy." So my dad thought he had 500,000. Did not know he had 490 of accidental. And so that kind of got me kind of looking into insurance, investments, things of that nature. And at the time, I was a registered nurse. I specialized in cardiology. And but over the next 7, 8 years, I just kind of did deeper, and I finally just made the transition into the financial industry to make sure that nobody else will ever find themselves in the position my mother found herself in. You know, and one of my proudest moments was when I had given a workshop. A lady came to it, wanted to come meet with me one-on-one. This was in September. We met in October. That previous spring, her husband had passed away. She thought she was going to work the rest of her life. She did not understand that Social Security, the survivor benefit. So working with her, I showed her how once she reached age 60, she could actually file for her survivor benefit. We could take the 401k money she had, create a guaranteed income stream that would replace the income she needed. And then let that build up. And then when she hit age 70, 69, 70, somewhere in that range, then she could flip over to her benefit, which would be higher at that time, and kind of keep getting pay raises all the time. As it just so happened, she turned 60 that same December. She retired, and since 2016, all she's done is fly between New York and California playing grandmama to her grandbabies. Daniel, let me tell you something, brother. There's not a drug known to man that can give you a natural high like that does. When you can help somebody do something like that, that's why I do what I do. The Bond Financial Group companies, there's 4 companies: Bond Financial Group Insurance Solutions, BFG Investments, Outside the Box Tax Group, that are all what I call client facing, in other words, working with clients. And then there's one that is advisor facing, so to speak, Bond Sales Academy, where I train and mentor financial professionals so they can know that what they're doing is in the best interest of their clients. You know, like you mentioned, I am a certified financial fiduciary. I'm also a certified financial fiduciary educator. Doing what's right, what's in the best interest of the client is top priority to me at all times.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great story, and I always love hearing how somebody got started. And unfortunately, so often your story that you shared about somebody, you know, in this case, it was your father, did not really fully understand what they had. and through a tragedy, unfortunately, sorry for your loss with your dad passing away, learning that he did not have what he thought he had. And unfortunately, this does happen. Often. And it sounds like that was kind of the catalyst for you to start looking into this and really helping people. Now, maybe you touched on it a little bit, but if you had to sum up your mission in just like one sentence, what would that actually be?
My mission is to make sure that nobody has to have any fear in their mind that they're going to run out of money in their lifetime. You see there's a swan in my logo. And listen, let me tell you something. A swan has absolutely nothing to do with financial planning and retirement planning. And yet for me, it has everything to do with it because I use SWAN as an acrostic. SWAN. Sleep well at night. If you become a client of mine, you'll have peace of mind. You'll be able to sleep well at night because you know that because you feel secure that your financial future is secure. And regardless of what happens in the economy, regardless of what happens in the stock market, you know that your financial future is secure. That's what I do. That's my mission.
That's a great acronym. Now, you often say that your goal is to help people retire with income, not assets. Can you unpack that a little bit? What does that really mean?
So, think about this. If you go back to 2009, when the market stopped crashing and started coming back up, and you go till about 2018, 2019, almost 2020, for the most part, the stock market went like this. I mean, it had a few little dips, but for the most part, it went straight up. And everybody, asset-wise, got rich. But at the same time that our assets were going this way, bonds and the yield on bonds was going this way. And in fact, bonds went down faster than stocks went up. So think about this. If you have $1 million, and you get 4% return on your money, that's $40,000 a year. And let's say that's what you need. Let's say that in addition to Social Security, you need $40,000 a year, and you've got $1 million. That's 4%. Hey, you're doing good if you get 4%. But when the stock market is when bonds are only yielding 2%, now you need $2 million to get that same 40,000. So it's not the assets. You can't go down to your power company and say, hey, I've got $1 million in assets. No, they want to know that your check doesn't bounce. That's what they care about, is your income. So you've got to have that income generation sources that are going to be enough to provide for that income for the rest of your life where you do not run out of money and where you don't have to be concerned about running out of money.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Now, what kind of clients are you working with most often right now, and what are kind of the biggest worries that they have?
I keep going back to it. Pre-retirees and retirees, at least in the United States, their biggest concern, their biggest fear in life is running out of money in their lifetime. My clients, for the most part, they want guaranteed income. They want safety. They want to know that they don't have to worry. We've all heard it's not what you make, it's what you keep that counts. And so that's where the tax part of my business comes in, outside the box tax group, to make sure that whatever we put you into, that the net result, the net income is going to be what you need without you having to dip into the principal, so to speak. Yeah.
No, that's great. Now, you've mentioned that most retirees are, driving blind. When it comes to, income planning, what's really causing that disconnect for them?
They've never had, think about this. Now, I don't know about in Canada where you're from, but in the United States, zero in any type of class structure. in high school or college, unless you're going into financial planning, they don't even teach you how to balance a checkbook. You have no financial planning whatsoever. And so most people, they don't know what it takes. They don't know how money works, so to speak. And that is their biggest downfall, is by not knowing how money works, they fall victim too many times to stockbrokers, insurance agents. I hate to say it. There's some bad apples in the industry, and unfortunately, they fall victim to them too often. And since they don't know, they tend to take advice at the water cooler from their coworker, from their brother, sister, aunt, uncle, whatever. And when it comes to financial planning, it's not a one size fits all. It's very individualistic, and you cannot go based on what worked for mom or daddy, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, coworker, anybody else.
Yeah, you bring out a great point. So where do you see, at this time, most people unintentionally kind of leave money, on the table, or peace of mind on the table when they come to you? Where do you see kind of the biggest mistakes that, they're making right now?
So there's something, I don't know if y'all have it, if you know in Canada about this, but in the United States, there's something that's called the retirement red zone. Kind of like if you're a football fan, what that red zone is, right? The last 20 yards, okay? In retirement planning, there's something that's called the retirement red zone. That's the last 5 years a person works and the first 5 years after a person retires. And studies have shown if you lose 10% of or just 10% of your assets, I should say, during that 10 years, then your odds of running out of money greatly increase. And I think I just froze, did I?
You're good. You keep on going. Yeah, it went through.
It looks like I froze. Am I still on?
Yeah.
Okay. My screen just went blank. Okay, good deal. All right. So the retirement red zone, last 5 years that you work, first 5 that you retired. If you lose just 10% of your assets during that 10-year period, you greatly increase the likelihood of running out of money in your lifetime. And so where most people make the biggest mistake is they stay fully invested too long. And as they get toward that retirement, they lose their money. Prime example. In 2000, 2001, 2002, the United States, the stock market crashed. And then in 2007, 8, 9, it crashed again. I had people that I was meeting with in 2013, 2014, 2015 who had planned to retire in 2000, 2001, 2002, but because the market crashed, they couldn't retire. Then just about the time they was getting ready to retire again, 7, 8, 9, it crashed again. And so literally they wanted to retire in 2000. They were still working in 2013, 14, and 15, all because they left all their money invested.
Wow, that's unfortunate. So you've created something called Retirement Income MRI. What is it, and how does it really change the conversation? And I think that might speak to the example that you just gave right now.
So, if you don't feel well, you go to the hospital, you get an X-ray, you get an MRI. If it's bad enough, you maybe even get a CAT scan. I do the same thing, but here's how I do it. I go back and I will stress test your portfolio. And by stress test it, I'm going to look and see how would it perform in good times? How would it perform in bad times? In other words, how would your portfolio perform in 7, 8, and 9, in 2000, 2001, 2002? Go back to 87. Go back to the 60s, go back to the Depression. How would your portfolio have performed during those times? And we make sure that you would not run out of money, even if another Depression hit, even if another 2000, 2001, 2002, or 7, 8, and 9, or whatever hit again, you would not run out of money. We stress test it against the good and the bad.
Yeah. No, that's a good advice. Again, you need to know exactly what is going on the inside, kind of like you mentioned the MRI, knowing what's happening and being informed with, where you're at now. You've built your reputation for being, fiercely educational and transparent. Why is that such a core part of, how you show up and how you help your clients?
If you do not work with someone who is a financial fiduciary, they do not have to do what's in the best interest of you. Let me give you an example. Maybe you go to a stockbroker and you tell that stockbroker, I'm 65 years old. I've got $100,000. I've got $500,000. I've got $1 million. I'm conservative, whatever. Okay. And maybe there are two different investment plans that stockbroker has that would work for you. Plan one or plan A is going to pay him $10,000. Plan B is going to pay him $25,000. Which plan do you think he's going to put you in? The one that pays you $25,000. He has not broken the law by doing that. On the other hand, when you work with a financial fiduciary who by law has to put their client's interests ahead of their own, if that financial fiduciary, in other words, an investment advisor such as myself, if they did that, lose my license, I would be fined and I could be put in jail. You have to work with a financial fiduciary. That's the only way that you know that the person is putting your best interest ahead of their own.
Yeah, I guess that's where really the conflict of interest comes in. Now, what do most people misunderstand about going from that accumulation stage to the distribution in retirement? Because those are two separate stages and they need to be treated differently.
Right. And the main thing is, even when you get to the distribution stage, you still want to grow your assets. Okay. But the biggest thing that I see that most people, when they meet with me for the first time, if they know anything at all about the distribution stage, they've read somewhere the 4% rule. Well, here's the thing. You can line up 100 advisors, stockbrokers, insurance agents, investment advisors. You can line up 100 of them, and you're going to get 100 different explanations for what the 4% rule is. Because some people say it's 4% plus whatever the interest rate is or the inflation rate is. Some people say it's just a flat 4% across the board. Some people say it's no more than 4%. Some people say you start out at 4%. Some people say that now, because yields have gone down, that the 4% rule is outdated, that now it's the 2.8% rule. Because since interest rates have gone down, you have to use 2.8%, not 4%. There are other advisors that say, no. It's the other way around. In fact, you can probably pull out 6%. And then there are some, what I'm going to call celebrity financial people who say that you go back and, since mutual funds have averaged 12% since the start of time, you can take 12% a year, which that's not even close to being true. And I won't name who he is, but I think everybody knows who he is. But yeah, so they just do not know because they've heard so much that they don't know. They've been inundated with so much information, they don't know what to believe.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there is a lot of misconception when it comes down to now. I know the one thing that you're known for is really simplifying complex things, again, RMDs, tax risk, social security strategy. What's the one overlooked factor that makes a big difference, especially for somebody that's that's looking at those options?
So in the United States, in the States, we have Social Security. Social Security, you may have to pay income tax on that, federal income tax on that. And it depends on what somebody call the provisional income. So provisional income is all income from all sources, except for two: income from a Roth qualified account like a Roth 401k, a Roth a thrift savings plan, a Roth IRA, or a Roth retirement account, or income from a properly structured, properly funded life insurance policy. Those are the only two. Otherwise, all other income plus one half of your Social Security. That's provisional income. That determines how much, if any, of your Social Security you have to pay tax on. Well, if you've got traditional IRAs, traditional employer-sponsored retirement accounts, when you reach 73 years old, when you reach the age 73, you have to start taking something that's called required minimum distributions. And the older you are, the higher or the more those RMDs are. Well, it could be that you're not having to pay income tax on Social Security yet, but those RMDs now all of a sudden you have to pay income tax on Social Security, as much as 85% of your Social Security. So let's say, for example, that you have to take $10,000 RMD this year. Well, because you took that is taxable income. So that goes into your taxable income, and that $10,000 could make you pay tax on as much as $8,500 of Social Security. So you drew out $10,000, you may have to pay income tax on $18,500.
No.
I don't want to pay tax on the first $10,000, much less $18,500. But if you don't know that, if you don't plan ahead for that, if you don't start taking some moves and transitioning that money ahead of time, you can be stuck paying tax on $18,500 for every $10,000 you pull out. Now, would you like to do that?
Oh, no, it doesn't sound like it. I think sometimes people say, hey, I'd rather pay the tax on the seed, not on the harvest. And I think this is what you're talking about, right? Oh.
Tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars, maybe even thousands of dollars.
Yeah. No, that's I think where it comes down to. So when you do meet with people, what do you kind of notice is the thing that's holding them back? Because the information that you're talking about is all out there. How come they're not educated on it more? Like, is it just the challenge within the industry? Is it just some advisors don't really educate individuals? What do you think is kind of the reason why a lot of people are not aware of this?
I think it's two primary reasons. Number one, all their life they've been focusing on accumulation, and very few. I could probably count on one hand the number of people, advisors I've ever met that were great at accumulating and great at decumulating. The decumulation comes when you retire. Okay. And so all your life, that advisor has been teaching you, has been helping you accumulate. That advisor, more times than not, does not understand Social Security themselves. Social Security is a complex and complicated issue. So number one, that. Number two, there's a big difference between tax planners and tax preparers. And what I'm going to say is, no, please don't misunderstand. I'm not meaning to be derogatory toward a tax preparer. They're doing a great job, but all they can do is based on what you give them. You tell them how much money you made this year, they write up a report and send it to the IRS. They're basically a historian, if you will. But that tax planner is going to look ahead. And most tax preparers are not tax planners. And so those two things right there, not understanding taxes and not understanding Social Security, most people get to the retirement age and they don't have a clue about what's coming or or what to do.
Yeah, you do bring a good point. I think a lot of accountants and preparers, they primarily deal with compliance. They just got to make sure that, all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted. But that's not really being strategic about it, right? Like right now is the time to go and prepare or start planning for how much tax you're going to pay this year. when you're doing your taxes, it's already late. And, historian, archaeologist, that's basically what it comes down to with most tax preparers. So when you think about your legacy, what do you want your business and your work to really stand for?
Daniel, when I'm dead and gone, it's not going to matter how big my house was. It's not going to matter what kind of cars I drove, how much money I made, where I vacationed. What's going to matter is how many people's lives did I positively impact in such a way that it positively impacted generations down the line. So I'm dead and gone, and 5 generations from now, I'm still impacting somebody. That's my legacy.
No, that's great. Now, you've been doing this for, nearly 30 years. What keeps you passionate about this work?
The Bible says, where there is no vision, people perish. So in addition to the financial side of it, I also remind clients that if you retire and go sit on the couch and become a couch potato, you're not going to live very much longer. So in other words, to paraphrase, the Bible says, where there is no vision, the people perish. I say, where there's no purpose in life, people die younger. Okay? And so what keeps me passionate is seeing how I can positively impact people's lives financially, but also impact people's lives as far as them teaching their children and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren what they want, the values and morals that they want to pass along.
Yeah.
That's what keeps me going.
Yeah, it's multi-generational, right? Now,
Yep.
I know you already mentioned one story, but is there another story or a client transformation that still gets you excited, to do what you're doing right now?
There is, and it's going to go back to what I was just saying about the purpose. I met with a lady. She had just retired. Her husband had retired about 3 to 5 years before she did. I did not know him. I met her through she had come to one of my workshops, and he truly was one of these that when he retired, he went and sat on the couch, and from that he developed heart disease. He had shunts put in, and the doctors gave him less than a year to live.
Oh, wow.
Simply because his heart was so bad. I got to working with him, and he suddenly got fired up about the idea of passing on his values, and I got him this computer program where he every day he taught into it. He kind of recorded what he did when he was growing up and what he did when he got to school and how he and his wife met and this and all of a sudden he perked up. And this was in 2015. We're in 2025 and he is still alive today. That excites me when I can make that kind of impact in somebody's life.
Yeah.
That means probably be dead.
Yeah. That's a great story. I often say, that there's 2 important days in somebody's life. One is the day you're born, obviously, and the second one is when you find out why.
That's right.
And, it sounds like you're not only are you living out that mission and vision that you have, but you're also instilling that in your clients or the people that you work with. So that's really a great story because, when somebody doesn't have a purpose, yeah, they start to kind of die inside, right? There was also another saying, unfortunately, that, a lot of people die at the age of 25. They don't just get buried until 75, right? Which is kind of the unfortunate thing. So that's a great story of you kind of waking somebody up and giving them reason and purpose. And, now many years later, they're still around. So I'm sure that, they and their family appreciate that. Now, if someone is listening today and they feel unsure or overwhelmed about, retirement or finances, what's kind of that very first step that you want them to take?
Whether it's me or another investment advisor who is a certified financial fiduciary, reach out to somebody. Okay, think about this. Michael Jordan, one of the best basketball players ever played in the NBA. He never won a championship until he hooked up with his coach. All right. Tiger Woods, as great as he was, he always had a coach.
Yeah.
You know, every professional athlete who has ever gone into the Hall of Fame will tell you that one of the primary reasons is because of the influence of a coach. Find a financial coach, whether it's me or somebody else, and work with them. If nothing else, so that they can kind of have a different set of eyes, look at it from a different perspective and a different viewpoint than you are, and maybe even let you know some things you don't know. Yeah, they need to reach out to somebody. Don't do it yourself.
That's a great advice. Yeah, I think you only know what you know, right? I mean, the biggest cost we all have, and I think we have the biggest expense is just not knowing something or not knowing how to do it or not knowing what the next step is. So having somebody else coming in and giving that advice is really important, especially when it comes down to finances, because there is a lot of misconception. There is a lot of things, as you mentioned before, that are mentioned in the media or in the newspapers, on TV, on radio, wherever that might be. But that's very generic, or at least it should be taken as generic. It's not an advice, right? It's just somebody's opinion. What really needs to do is somebody needs to sit down with, as you mentioned, with a fiduciary and really get an understanding of not only, what do they want, but where are they, what do they need to do to actually get to where they're, as they're working through it.
I was asked to be a consultant and a producer on a movie. It's the first and only movie in the United States that was given a rating by the Motion Picture Association of America, so that this movie can actually be shown in movie theaters. And the reason they did that is because there's no sales in this. This is 100% educational. Now, I bring that up for this reason. Okay, I bring that up for this reason. We all we think we know what we think we know, but we're not always right. And I bring that up for this reason also. In that movie, we had Nobel Prize winning economists. We had nationally recognized in both the United States and Canada retirement experts. We had government officials. We had the deans and professors of some of the foremost prominent business schools in the United States and Canada. And when you work with me, it's not what somebody's opinion is of what you should do. It's not what we think is right. It's not what we hope is right. It's what decades of research by Nobel Prize winning economists has proven to be right. Purely math and science, not opinion.
No, you bring out a great point, and yeah, that is a great movie. I've seen it myself, a great educational. And again, your job as an advisor is just to go and help people, to go and make the right decision. But often at the beginning, it's just to go and make them aware of something that they don't know, right? Because often we think we know what the truth is, but we only believe it's the truth because we believe it. It's not necessarily the truth, right? So there is the truth, and then there is the truth that we believe it to be so. So no, that's a really great point, Gene. Now, as we come to the close, I've got these 4 rapid questions that I always ask. They're one answer questions. So what's your favorite book that really shaped your thinking that you would recommend somebody to go and read?
The Bible.
You know what? I've got to say that's the number one answer that we're getting on here. So that's right. That's great. Now, morning routine or habit you can't live without?
A combination of devotion and personal development. I'm blessed because I'm from Mississippi. Zig Ziglar was also from Mississippi, and Zig Ziglar and my dad went to boot camp together. And because of that relationship, I actually started getting mentored early at age 13. So I kind of consider myself blessed for that reason. But personal development is also professional development, and in the Bible. So that combination of devotion and development, if I don't do it, yeah, I start feeling that something is wrong. I'm off. I'm off.
Yeah, you're missing it. No, again, those are great when it comes down to with the Bible devotional, and then also that. What's one bucket list that you haven't checked off yet?
The Greek Isles.
Hmm.
I want to go to the Greek Isles.
Yeah, that's great. Now, what's a surprising hobby or interest that really recharges you and gives you energy for the day?
Streetcar racing.
Is there any particular series?
Just streetcar racing. The quarter mile and half mile.
No. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, one last question before we close. I call it the hot one. Fast forward to the end of your life. If everyone forgot everything that you have ever taught them or showed them, but they do remember just that one message from you, what would that one most important message be?
He genuinely enjoyed helping others.
That's a great advice. Wow. What a powerful and perspective shifting conversation, Gene. Thank you for sharing your journey, your frameworks, and really your heart as far as what you do and how you help people. Where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
So they can go to hi, hello / Gene Bond. Or better yet, just get their QR scanner, say from their smartphone, and scan over my left shoulder where it says "Scan me to connect." That is, you see, it's just kind of scrolling right now. That is my digital business card. I can't hand you a physical business card because I'm here and you're there. This is my digital business card, which will allow you to go down the line and click any links you want to click. For example, to see the trailer on the movie and to get in contact with me. We did not make the movie to make money from the sell of the movie. We made the movie to get the word out about what people need to do to have a secure financial future, have a successful retirement. So this way they can reach out and get a copy of it, a free copy, either a Blu-ray DVD / regular DVD combo pack, or the streaming. If we prefer to stream it instead of using the disc. Either way.
That's perfect. So if you're listening, be sure to check out Gene's website and the tools and get the DVD, scan the QR code to really help you to build meaningful retirement. Gene, thank you again for your time and your message. And remember, Make Life Less Taxing isn't just about money. It's about freedom, clarity, and purpose. Keep building wealth, keep protecting your legacy, and keep living the untaxable lifestyle. We'll see you next time on the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Thank you again, Gene.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at makelifilesstaxingpodcast.com.